Wrestling fans around the corner, around the world, I'm Dan Marty.
MJ in the house.
Future WWE Hall of Famer, mind you. Let me tell you this.
I'm not in there yet?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay.
But you will be.
Yeah, I will.
You know Sean wants to be the first three-timer.
Three-timer,
yeah.
yeah.
There you go. Let me tell you, you enjoy the in-studio shoot interviews 4 times a week. It isn't cheap to put these productions together, folks. We need your
No,
help.
because he got to pay me.
Okay. Coronavirus has killed the nightlife in a lot of ways. We are night owls, Marty and I, but that's a different story for a different time. One way you can help is to check out the great merchandise we have in the Boston Wrestling eBay store. It is perfect for any wrestling man cave or any collection.
That's right. Check it out.
Arguably the greatest professional wrestler of all time. Get this limited edition collector's autograph print personally signed by 2-time WWE Hall of Famer Nature Boy Ric Flair, inscribed 16 times for each of his recognized World Championship reigns. One of only 50 made direct from our friends at WWE. Also signed by original artist Rob Schamberger. Help keep wrestling legends working. Get this awesome Ric Flair collectible for your wrestling collection now.
Cheer! Why, hello! I would ask what was on your mind, but I already know. You want to know what has got my beard looking oh so majestic. And I'll tell you, it's sexy as hell beard care. Coconut oil, vitamin E oil, almond oil, both sweet and bitter, shea butter, it's all natural. Yes, JTG has actually come out with a high quality product. So support your boy by going to sahbeardcare.com and take one step closer to becoming sexy as hell. Cheer. Ooh, cheer. You know?
Boston Wrestling Sports and the MWF explodes into a new year of unknown with professional wrestling content galore, and we need you to join our family. Every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. after we review the previous night's Monday Night Raw, it's Wrestling Insiders at your house with the unpredictable WWE Hall of Famer, Mr. USA, Tony Atlas. Wednesday nights after WWE, NXT, and AEW at 10 p.m., you never know who's going to show up on Wrestling Insiders Special Edition. Every Thursday night at 10 p.m. after our NXT and Dynamite review, it's Marty Jannetty's No Holds Barred Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll journey through the 80s and 90s on Wrestling Insiders Party with Marty. Friday nights after the lights go down at the Thunderdome on SmackDown, it's John Cena Sr.'s Wrestling Insiders Fabulous Fridays. Plus, look for classic clips, bonus live episodes, pay-per-view watch-alongs, and more. If you want early, ad-free access to all of our Wrestling Insider talk shows, our acclaimed studio shoot interview DVD library, and to help keep wrestling legends working during the worst of times, for less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks, join our growing family at patreon.com/Boston Wrestling. Expect the unexpected in 2021.
This is Mick Foley.
This is Harley Race.
This is Shelton Benjamin.
This is Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff.
This is the Monster Abyss.
And this is Daniel Bryan.
This is JBL, and you're watching the MWF.
Be there live.
Wrestling fans from around the corner, around the world, welcome to a special, almost a bonus installment of Memories and Legends. Tony, we have made our goal to release new content on every WWE pay-per-view weekend. It's been a great success with the great feedback we've had from the fans. We'll discuss that in a moment. We're going to put out a special holiday episode here to say hey to everybody, talk about what we're going to release the rest of the summer, Tony. We have some really fun stuff coming up. On WWE Battleground weekend, we're going to have a maybe a somber episode that we've already produced where we talk about somber.
Or somber.
About the 30th anniversary, believe it or not, of the passing of Bruiser Brody, the murder that took place in Puerto Rico that Tony witnessed firsthand. Then we're going to have perhaps a double-header SummerSlam weekend Our good friend Warbeard Hansen, Todd Hansen, you remember him traveling the Indies? He's making a huge name for himself in NXT. We hope he's going to be participating at the NXT TakeOver Brooklyn event. SummerSlam weekend, we're going to have one episode where it's almost going to be like Dr. Phil comes to the Millennium Wrestling Federation as our president, Dr. David Reese, an esteemed psychiatrist, is going to join us in studio to try and break down Tony's love of these shoes and the abuse that goes along with it. It's going to be must-see TV, Tony.
A psychologist going to talk to me?
Yes.
When he get through talking to me, he going to be as crazy as I am.
They may lock him up in the 6th floor of Melrose Wakefield Hospital.
There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. Nothing wrong with me.
And then for all of you longtime fans, the other episode we're going to release on SummerSlam weekend we've already produced. We discuss 3 great WWF and WWF champions in Bruno Sammartino, Superstar Billy Graham, and Bob Backlund. We're also going to have another great episode coming as the fall season kicks off, where we're going to take, we haven't taped this one yet, but Legends House. We're going to have a lot of fun with that.
Yes.
But here is a bonus, Tony. The fan feedback has been so great. They've appreciated your honest insight. You know, you always have some trolls on the internet. They're going to have negative things to say. But in general, the fans, they respect you for what you've done. Being, I don't know if man enough is the right word, but maybe being honest enough with yourself to share this, these abuse tapes we've seen so far.
Abuse?
The shoe tapes.
There's nothing abusive about that.
You being kicked in the head hundreds of times is not abusive.
But that's what's wrong with all you guys today.
Tell me.
Look, if you guys out there don't let your girlfriend or your wife stomp you in the face, punch you in the nose, you're all wimps. You wimpy guys. It's fun. Let your wife beat you up every now and then. Ask your wife, turn to your wife right now, turn to your girlfriend, and say, honey, will you enjoy stomping me or punching me? And I guarantee you, your wife would punch you in the nose if you ask her. I guarantee you your wife would kick you if you ask her. I guarantee your girlfriend would punch you in the nose, and I bet you they would like it.
Well, Tony, it's not a secret. There's various places.
You think women would not enjoy whooping your butt? I don't know any woman that would not.
Marty.
Yeah, they would love to whoop you. Oh, they would. There's a lot of women out here would love to beat up a guy.
All right.
Yeah. So
well, Tony, it's not a secret.
Abuse.
There has been some times in recent years you've faced some financial struggles. It's been reported online. We're going to release, to help the cause, for you great fans that have enjoyed Tony Atlas so far, the uncensored footage of these shoes and abuse.
You going to show that to people?
Anyone that wants it. We've shown them. They got about 4 minutes.
No kids. Don't let kids watch.
No kids. It's not for family viewing. It's not for kids. We put up great
disclaimers. We don't want kids to imitate anything I do. Certain things that kids should not imitate.
But for adult wrestling fans and fans that perhaps are of shoes and abuse, you may enjoy it.
I tell you women, y'all watch that tape, and then you get your husband, you do the same thing to him that the girl is doing to me on the tape. I bet you'll like it. The guy, I don't know how the guy going to enjoy it. Some guys may like it, but I know every woman likes that.
All right, Tony. We were asked to do a little something here in this bonus episode we're putting together about the passing of one of wrestling's great superstars last week. It'll be 2 weeks ago by the time we release this. A man that sat in that very chair where you are, here in this studio, Leon White, better known as Big Van Vader.
Well, he had he was an amazing individual. He played pro football, played in 2 Super Bowls, championship games, got 2 Super Bowl rings, WWE Hall of Fame, Hall of Famer. He brought a great access to the business. I mean, he was a great entertainer, and he was a great friend to. I didn't know him that well, but I had the pleasure of spending time with him. We talked about football and we talked a lot about Tom Brady. He had the same feeling about Tom Brady I did, that he's going to go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And he was a very interesting person to be around. He was a very, very intelligent man. I mean, it was more to him than just Vader the wrestler. You know, what is so strange, you know, he reminded me a great deal of Mankind, George the Animal Steel, and Vader. They both played this person that was not intelligent. They play a character that didn't show intelligence with just brute strength and craziness. But then when you sit there, and all three people are three of the smartest people I know. You know, Cactus Jack, very, very intelligent man. George Animal Steel was a very intelligent man, and Leon White was a very, very intelligent man. And you could learn a lot from and the fans are going to miss him. And the wrestlers and the fans are going to miss him because those that was able to meet him and see him, you know, perform, he loved the fan, he loved to perform up until his last days, you know. Even after his surgery and everything, he still wanted to get out there and be in front of the fan. I know one time he was on this last show with me and Mark Henry was on with Big Time Wrestling, and they told him, said, well, you know, you don't have to make the show if you don't want it. He said, no, I don't want to disappoint the fans. So he was a true patriot of not only wrestling, but also in football. So.
You know, Tony, I got to know Leon very, very well in recent years. You know, one thing you talk about his great intelligence and his stardom in wrestling is he was one of the best big men of all time.
Yeah.
But he was a great dad. He had a great affinity for his son.
Yeah. Yeah.
I tell you this, we had some questions from the fans, Tony. What was your initial impression when you first met him? Did you meet him when he was first Vader, or was he still Leon White at that point?
He was Vader when I met him. It was in 1993, and he was managed by what I consider one of the greatest world champions of all time, Harley Race.
Another man that sat in that very seat you're in. We loved the Harley interview.
Harley Race was his manager at the time, and we worked against each other only once on television.
Really?
Yeah. We had one match during the time of WCW. I was playing the villain. I was the heel at that time, and we had a match, and we traveled a little bit together. I traveled a little bit with him and Harley Race, and we had some very interesting conversations. But when I first saw him, I just figured he was very, very impressive. Then when Vince got a hold of him, Vince just took him to another level when they put the big shoulder pad thing on him and came out with blowing the smoke. And
well, that happened in Japan, not WWF.
Was that Japan?
Yeah.
But I thought that was a great.
The elephant-looking mask that had the steam come out of it.
The steam coming out of it. I thought that was amazing. And you know, everywhere he went, he ran into a little complication one time when a guy asked him was wrestling fake in the Middle East, and
remember that
he did the same thing that David Shooks did.
He sure did.
Slapped the reporter.
Wrong country.
yeah, but he was just in the wrong country for doing that. But it just show you the respect he had for the business and the board, because he took that as guys would insult his profession. You know, to tell a wrestler that wrestling is fake would make any wrestler mad, because wrestling is not fake. It's stage. It's a big difference. We hit each other. You can't fake a fall. Guys got injuries, and they in pain all the time for all the fall. So if you want to describe a wrestler, you would say an actor that does his own stunts.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it.
There's nothing fake about
nothing
the stunt.
fake.
It may not be, I wouldn't even fake about who win and who lose. That might not be on the up and up, but most of the time, the guy that win, 9 times out of 10, he can win anyway. Because anybody that ever met John Cena in person and have worked out with him in the gym, I would say there's very few people in the world that could stand man-to-man with John Cena. That's just the honest God truth. I mean, he's a very, very powerful, powerful individual. For those that remember, there was a WrestleMania, I can't remember what it was, where he picked up the Big Show, who is 500 pounds, and picked up Edge, who at that time was 250 pounds. So this man took 750 pounds of flesh.
Yep.
Now, it's not like weights. With weights, everything is equal. Everything is even. So he picked up 750 pounds of human flesh and walked across the ring with him. That takes incredible, incredible, incredible strength.
The fans in Houston at WrestleMania 25 couldn't believe it, Tony. It was quite a
moment. It was
an
amazing feat of strength, one of the most amazing feat of strength I've ever seen in pro wrestling. I have seen done by John Cena. And his ability to connect with the fans, his ability to talk. There's nobody better on the mic than John Cena. I mean, he's absolutely amazing on the mic, the way he could think so fast and keep up with things. And he know how to connect with the fans. And he in person, if those that have never met him, you miss a treat. He's one of the most respectable, patriotic, nicest young men that I ever met in my life. I got a lot of respect for John Cena. And
what about John Cena Sr.?
His father, what the old saying, the apple don't fall far from the fruit, don't fall far from the tree. So I would see where he get his great mannerism with, and some of the great qualities.
Classy man.
Very classy.
Very classy.
Man. He's a true champion. He meant to be where he's at. I think they should do more with him in the movie industry, because right now the movie industry don't have a lot of new upcoming action heroes.
Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger have had their
pretty
time.
much, yeah. And most of Clint Eastwood, most of that era have pretty much passed. And I would like to see them introduce Cena into more action movie. I love the Marine, and I've seen him in a couple of things. Stone Cold Steve Austin is another. I think he's better as far as an actor. Then he was a great wrestler, but his acting is right up there with his wrestling.
Yeah.
So one thing that about guys like John Cena, Stone Cold Steve Austin, they have more to offer than just the ring.
You are correct. But Tony, we don't want to go too far off track. This is a tribute to Vader. Another question we got, Tony. You were around WWF for a brief period of time in 1997. Why do you think Vader never really clicked in WWE? He received a big main event run with Shawn Michaels for the belt. They had some major issues working in the ring, where Shawn had some major frustrations on pay-per-view live. That kind of cost Vader a championship run. What is it about Vader, do you think, that didn't exactly click in WWE? And he was quickly moved into a mid-card slot and then almost into an enhancement role before he finally quit.
Well, the unfortunate thing about any business, sometimes, like when I first started wrestling, some of the best wrestlers were the jobbers. In some respect, if you have a problem with one person that is close to the office, that person can cause you problem down the road. I think the main thing that hurt Vader was that slap. When he slapped the guy in the Mud East, that was pretty much.
And you know, that's a great observation. Because right after that, he really started to move
what he
down.
did, he made himself a liability.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy. Like, for example, when you do something in wrestling or football, people would not have came out to Vader. They would have came out to WWE because they got deeper pockets. And if you keep that person around, he caused a liability. And he made himself a liability. You know, like I said, Vince McMahon had never fired anybody that didn't deserve it. You do something in your career, because Vince got more people to answer to than just WWE employees and WWE wrestlers. He also had to answer to networks, USA Network. He has to answer to his sponsors.
And
you know,
the biggest one is stockholders.
Right, they're stockholders. He has
company.
to answer to all the people. So when a guy make himself a liability, they say, well, if he do that, because he didn't go to jail, which means he cost the WWE a lot of money.
He was stuck in the country for a couple of weeks,
They had to spend a lot of money
to
getting him back out. So, and his temperament, Vince probably figured maybe he would do it again, maybe next time it'd be worse on the organization. But it's like David Shook, when he slapped the reporter, that made him a liability. So whenever you do something, you know, you make yourself a liability to the company.
Right.
And Vince can't afford to have scandals, because everybody is, in today's time, everybody's looking to sue. So I think that had a lot to do with it. The slap he did, when we slapped the news reporter.
All right, we got a question from Arthur Simonelli on Twitter. He wants to know, where would you rank Vader amongst the great big men in wrestling history, Tony?
Within the top 10.
Really?
Yeah, I'll put him up with the top 10, because, like I said, there ain't many men his size. Now, Vader was almost over 400 pounds. You know, he was a very, very big man. And plus his history to go along with it. I mean, how many wrestlers you know that have 2 Super Bowl rings? I mean, wrestling was very fortunate to get a person that played in 2 Super Bowls and wear 2 Super Bowl rings. There are very few people that got, you know, unless you're Tom Brady or New England Patriot, you know, there are very few teams that, so So he was always in the top in everything he did. In football, he was on, you know, he was one of the top players in football. Made a lot of money in what he did in football. And in wrestling, he was a great draw. It made a lot of money in our pro wrestling.
400-pound man that did a moonsault.
400-pound man that could do things, move around in the ring. You had Bam Bam Bigelow, you had Crusher Blackwell, but it was very, very limited. They was all limited in what they could do. So I would rank him within one of the top 10s.
Right, this one, almost a little insulting, but you could find some humor in it from the shooter Dave Simcoe on Twitter. He said, Vader has become notoriously known on podcasts as someone that had horrendous-smelling ring gear. Did Leon stink when you worked with him?
We all did.
But was he exceptionally bad?
No. This guy probably got close to a wrestler in ring gear for the first time in life. See, guys...
Well, the WWE Talent Relations had to have some conversations with him because the boys complained it was that bad.
Well, yeah, but see, what ended up happening, when you're in a top spot, like I was with, not to get off subject, I checked into a hotel with Hogan one time, Hulk Hogan. And I went to the room, relaxed a little bit, came down, went to do the event, came back to do the event, got up the next morning at 3 o'clock. I had to be at the airport at 4 to catch a 6 a.m. Flight. I had to be at the airport at 5. So 4 o'clock, I came in the lobby. Hogan was just coming in to get his bag. He'd been working. So when you're on the road, it's very hard to find the time to do your laundry. So most of the guys, they do their laundry when they get home. And a lot of guys with like Teddy Long, which was easy for Teddy to do. Teddy used to do his laundry at the end of TV. He'd go down to the laundromat at the hotel and do his laundry. But he didn't have to wrestle and do what Vader did. But Randy Savage was another one. A lot of guys that wore a lot of stuff. It was hard. Like guys that, like if you just wore like a pair of wrestling trunks like Bob Orton Jr., you could just take a little shampoo and rinse them out in the sink and hang them up. You got a fresh pair of trunks for the next day. But he wore a lot of gear. So it wasn't that easy for him to do his laundry.
Is there a proper etiquette for the boys when it comes to cleanliness? No, there's not.
No, not that I know of. No.
All right, well.
But see, the guys that complained during the Vader time, Vader came with they would have never made it with Andre. Andre would pass gas in the dressing room, and the show would be over. He could pass gas at 8 o'clock. And when the show ended at 10, you could still get a little whiff of Andre butthole. So we were used to that. Yeah. We came up in a different era. I used to wrestle a lot of guys like Abe Jacob. Now, Abe Jacob would eat raw garlic. So when he sweat, what you smell?
The garlic.
The garlic, you know. But where he come from is not to eat raw garlic, raw onions. I see him eat a raw onion, raw garlic. And so, guys, we didn't pay much attention in my day. But the newer generation, they more sensitive to things because they came up in a different time. So Vader was like an old dinosaur walking around all these young kids that is used to everything smelling good. They're not used to odor. They're not used to hairy, sweaty body. Like if they ever wrestled George the Animal Steel, I mean, when he sweat, he was no fun to wrestle. Not for all that hair.
Let me ask you this, where Vader has become kind of a target for fans online because of these stories that have come out on podcasts like Bruce Pritchard's and such. Who was maybe the worst that you ever had to work with when it came to hygiene? Was it George Steele? Was it someone else?
Well, George, they shower every day, but when they get a sweating, these big hairy guys.
Was there anyone that was exceptionally bad that you had to work with? You said, oh, I got to get in the ring with
Savage.
Savage was the worst. He stunk. And why was that?
He would never wash his gear.
Really?
Yeah. Until he got off the road.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. Because you got to realize these guys was on the road, not like right now. What Vince? They only on the road 4 days a week. They got 3 days off. But back in the older days,
they had 90 on. Yeah.
Or more. So more. Like when I first started in the 70s, we got 10 days off a year. We wrestled 355 days a year. So most of the guys had girlfriends and stuff they could leave their gear with to wash their gear. When they got back in town, they had some gear or they had a wife to do it. But a lot of guys, they didn't have anybody. So, you know, I mean, them gears, you know, yeah, it was not unusual for the guy that, you know, we used to tell a guy, man, you need to wash your gear. I mean, that was common when we would tell a guy. So Vader just being targeted among thousands and thousands of people that went through the same thing. You know, all of them, you know.
Do you think it's an unfair criticism that he
Yeah,
struck?
yeah, because it's unfair because it was part of the business. I mean, especially when you get in like amateur sport. When I was an amateur wrestler, I remember the coach came in and told all of us when I wrestled for Petra in high school, y'all guys need to take your gear home and wash it. You know, our workout stuff we train in, because we train in sweatpants and a sweatshirt.
Yeah.
And it got a little raunchy there around town. But you get around any sport room, even with you take in the sport room, you're gonna when the guys get through working out and they come back in, it all sweaty and smelly. You know, Tom Brady ain't smelling all that good after his game either.
All right. Well, again,
but he got somebody to do it for him.
The boys got to the point where they went to management to complain about it. So there must have been a little something to it. Have you ever heard of that before? The guys going to the office?
That's my first hear, but I think just knowing the rest of it, if a guy went that far, it had nothing to do with the gear. They were trying to find a reason. They didn't like him.
You know what?
They didn't like him.
That's a very good point.
See, because it ain't the gear. Because to go to management over somebody's gear not smelling good, it's more to it. It's more to it than just the gear.
Instead of Leon White, they were calling him Leon Ripe.
Yeah. Well, they was trying to. There was something about them. He probably he was a very intimidated person, and
a sensitive person at the same time.
Very sensitive, very sensitive. So he flew off the handle at a couple of guys. So whenever you get heat with someone, anything they had nothing else to say about him. So they picked that one thing to say about him. Like when I first started wrestling, the guys used to always pick on me about my calves because I had a 23-inch arm, but I had 18-inch calves, which was small for my body. I had 30-inch thigh, but I had these little calves. That's why I wore the high boots. But guys would never talk about my arms, never talk about my chest, never. We went to a bench press contest, and it's what surprised everybody, surprised me too. Dick Murdoch bench pressed 365 pounds in this contest in Japan. I did 600. Nobody talked about my 600. Nobody talked about me winning the contest. Nobody talked about my chest. The only time any wrestler would mention anything about my body, it was always my calves.
Really?
You look at the old interview with Jesse Ventura, they used to always talk about my legs. You talk about Greg Valentine, they always talk about my legs. Every time you look at an old interview with any wrestler, they always bring down his legs. He got small legs, Because when some people could pull themselves up by their own bootstrap, and other people pull themselves up by pulling you down. So these were just people that just didn't like Vader.
All right.
Because he wasn't the only guy in that dressing room that was smelling.
All right. Well,
I'll tell you that right now.
I find this last question very interesting, Tony. I did not hear about this. I want to ask you. It was a question from the father, Jurgen Lias, on Twitter. He said there were rumors online that within the past year or so that you and Vader had a confrontation of some kind.
It's not a rumor, it's the truth.
What happened?
Well, I live in Maine.
Yep.
And we should have been discussing it. We were discussing OJ. And he made a comment about, he was trying to convince me that the glove shrunk. And I said, Vader, you have to be a 5-year-old kid to believe that gloves shrink that freaking much. Calling me a kid, he's very sensitive. And so I told him, I said, look, if we get out of this car.
Oh, this was in a car?
We was in a car.
Okay.
And we was riding with, what's his name? Shoot. He's out of North Carolina there. He's South Carolina. He's a promoter there. But anyway, him and his family was in the car. So I told Vader, I said, if me and you fight, you better not get tired, because if you do, I'm going to pull a Tom Brady on you. I said, I don't get tired, brother. I said, if you can't go at least an hour fighting, you don't want to fight me. I said, because you may get me at the beginning, but I said, I won't stop. I said, you better not get tired. If you get tired, you go down, I'm not going to let you back up.
And what was his response?
He stopped talking. He left me alone. The promoter said, come on, guy. He calmed us down. His wife was holding me back. He had his kid in the car. And Vader just went off. But he, like I said,
did he get loud with you? Or?
Yeah.
Really?
He got mad because I said you have to be childish to think that a pair of gloves shrink. Because we hunt up in Maine.
Right, sure. You do a lot of hunting.
And then when you shoot a moose or deer, you have to gut him. You have to dress him out there. Nobody can carry a moose out the woods. That thing's 2,000 pounds. Who's going to carry a 2,000-pound animal out of the woods? So what you do, you cut them up, you dress, you get blood on your glove. And with most Mainers, when the glove get wet, they put it on the radiator and let them dry. They don't shrink. They get tight. But as soon as you put your finger in, I was trying to explain to him, how can you have cuts on your hand and not on the glove?
Right.
If there was his glove, the glove would have some cuts on them.
Sure, you'd think.
I was trying to explain to him, I believe he had what's called assistance. He didn't do it alone. I ain't saying that he's innocent or he's guilty, but if he was involved, he didn't do it alone. He had some assistance.
I think that would make for an excellent topic of discussion at some point, Tony.
Yeah.
But
and that's what the argument was over. Believe it or not, it was over OJ.
But you ended as friends.
We made up that night.
All right. Well,
that our same night we made up.
Tony, we're running out of time in this segment. Any final thoughts on our friend Leon White? I've had said a few prayers for the White family.
I think he
I was
was
very, very sad to learn of Leon's passing.
He was a friend, a great athlete in 2 major sports. He would not be forgotten.
No.
And he's going to be dearly missed.
No, be correct. You've absolutely.
He's going to be dearly missed. A lot of people are going to miss him. He was always 100% with the fans, no matter what. I've seen him time where his back was giving him trouble. But he would, when it came to the fan, he signed the autograph. He made his event. He always did. There was no problem with any promoter he ever worked for. I'm going to miss him.
Well, I tell you, WWE, I have a lot of friends there, Tony, but I was awfully disappointed that they didn't choose to have a video tribute to him on their television programs. I think anytime, especially a guy that worked on Top Passes, I think on a 3-hour television show and a 2-hour television show, they could take a minute or two to pay homage to him. That was WWE's personal choice, and you know what? It's at their discretion. It's their programming, and we'll leave it at that. So for my good friend, the man that's always ready to take a step in the right direction, I'm Dan Marati. Check out these great DVDs, the Vices DVD, the Tony Atlas Memories and Legends DVD. We got the Boogeyman one out. We have a special Vader one that's available from his visit here in the TV studio. And don't forget, WWE is going to be all over New England all weekend. The graphic has been scrolling on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Again, for Tony Atlas, I'm Dan Marati. Friends, until we speak again, we'll see you Battleground Weekend when we discuss the murder of Bruiser Brody.
The World Wrestling Federation was live at the Kiel Auditorium in St. Louis, Missouri, Sunday, May the 18th, 1986. In the opening contest, Hercules beat Leaping Lanny Poffo. Jim the Anvil Neidhart with the win over Jim Brunzell. Danny Spivey defeated Bret Hart. King Kong Bundy and Big John Studd with the win over George the Animal Steele and Cousin Luke, who replaced Uncle Elmer. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat battled Jake the Snake Roberts to a double disqualification. Tito Santana beat WWF Intercontinental Champion Macho Man Randy Savage via disqualification. And in the main event, WWF World Champion Hulk Hogan retained the title over adorable Adrian Adonis via disqualification. If you were in St. Louis live, share your memories in the comment section below. Use the links in the description box to keep Wrestling Legends working in our eBay store and on our world-renowned Patreon streaming service so we can bring you more interactive superstar shoot interviews to relive the good old days of professional wrestling. Check it out. Boston Wrestling Sports in the MWF explodes into a new year with professional wrestling content galore and need you to join our family. Every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. after our Monday Night Raw review, it's Wrestling Insiders at your house with WWE Hall of Famer Mr. USA Tony Atlas. Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. after NXT and AEW, join rotating legends on Wrestling Insiders Special Edition. Every Thursday night at 10 p.m. after our NXT and Dynamite review, it's Marty Jannetty's no-holds-barred sex, drugs, and rock and roll journey on Wrestling Insider's Party with Marty. Friday night after SmackDown, don't miss John Cena Sr.'s Wrestling Insider's Fabulous Fridays. Plus, look for classic clips, history videos, bonus live episodes, pay-per-view watch-alongs, and more. For less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks, get early ad-free access to our Wrestling Insider talk shows, our acclaimed studio shoot interview DVD library, and help keep wrestling legends working during the worst of times. Join our growing family at patreon.com/Boston Wrestling. Expect the unexpected in 2021.